guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be going through part 2 of the NEBOSH October 2021 open book examination. I'll be breaking down the questions using the scenario and showing you how to structure answers to score well in the examination. Let's get started. So part 3 was talking about learning lessons from the incidents. What specific reasons are there for the Recycling and Reuse Center to learn lessons from these incidents? And this question carries 10 marks. Breaking down it for you in simple terms, why is it important for the Recycling Center to learn from these incidents? I repeat, breaking down the questions to such a simpler form helps you to understand it to the layman's language. And the best way to answer these questions of NEBOSH, you want to give your point, link the point to the scenario, and then explain why you think that point is valid. Like any other question, I always begin my answers with an introduction bit. The following are the reasons why the Recycling Center needs to learn from these incidents. And number one is to prevent the recurrence of similar incidents. Now, the scenario link, based on the scenario, a similar incident had occurred before but was not acted upon because no one was injured. And that is the scenario evidence or the scenario link. Learning from these incidents would ensure that appropriate control measures are put in place and existing control measures are modified so that they can prevent the recurrence of similar incidents in the future. This prevents would-be injuries and possible fatalities to both the public members and the center workers. Why I love this point is to prevent the recurrence of similar incidents in the future. This is a classic example of almost all the NEBOSH papers, and we don't want at the workplace to have the similar incidents occurring. So that's why the Recycle Center needs to learn from these lessons. Okay. Now, number two is to identify failures in existing control measures. Okay. So the scenario link for me here in the red part, based on the scenario, a similar incident had occurred and no corrective action had been taken. This implies the incident was not effectively investigated. Another explanation, learning from such incidents would allow management to determine whether existing control measures are adequate or whether they need to be reviewed, improved, or replaced to prevent recurrence of similar incidents. Okay? Now, number three, to reduce the risk of serious injury or fatality. The scenario link, based on the scenario, a member of the public nearly fell into a 3.5-meter deep skip, which presents a fall from height hazard with the potential for severe injury or death. Right? Now, learning from the incident would ensure that appropriate control measures are implemented to eliminate or reduce the risks around the skip area to prevent serious injuries such as falling from height. We know that when there is fall from height, there are possible risks that may be involved, which may include fractures or even death, depending on how somebody falls. And we can say the skip was 3.5 meters deep. So, to reduce the risk of serious injury or fatality, we want to put in place control measures to prevent such incidences from occurring again. Now, number four is to improve risk assessments. This is my point here. And the scenario link, based on the evidence, the existing assessments did not primarily reflect the actual hazards present, such as falls into the skip and potential entanglement risks. Now, the explanation of this point, learning from incidents would ensure that risk assessments are reviewed and updated to reflect real workplace conditions and effectively identify suitable control measures. I think you can see how my points are very well pointed out, scenario linked, as well as explained to give them one full complete mark. I don't take halves, right? Number five, to strengthen the safe systems of work, or SSOW. Now, the scenario link is based on the scenario. There was no clear procedure for the members of the public to safely dispose of waste at the reuse and recycling center. Now, the explanation: learning from incidents would help management to develop, implement, and enforce safe systems of work to control access, behavior, and reduce exposure to hazards and risks. This would reduce the risks associated with the waste disposal at the skip areas. That I've answered 5 good points, and I've given you an extra of 5 points, which when you will answer, you will be able to make the 10 full marks. All right, so go ahead, answer these points like how I've done for the rest of these ones on top, and I'm sure you'll be able to get the full 10 marks. Okay, now number 4 talks about enforcing administrative risk control measures with safety signs. Okay, and the question was: the recycling center, the recycling and reuse center is a workplace but is also open to the general public. In such places, road safety signs and health and safety signs are commonly used to help protect workers and the public. Now, the question goes as: what safety signs would you expect to see in the publicly accessible areas of the center that would help reduce risk to workers and the public? And the question has 15 marks, right? So, this question here, I broke it down, okay? So, number 1, of course, I told you first have to make the introduction. The following are the signs that would be present in the publicly accessible areas of the center that would help reduce the risk to the workers and the public. So, the very first control signs are the road traffic control signs, and I go ahead and explain them. These are used to control the flow of traffic in waste generation parking areas and entrance areas to prevent car accidents and ensure the smooth flow of traffic in and out of the waste area. And these include: number 1, the speed limit signs, for example, or e.g., 5 kilometers per hour, right? And going ahead to beef up my point, these communicate to the public drivers not to exceed 5 kilometers per hour to avoid accidents within the site and in the narrow access entrance area, hence reducing the risk of collisions with other vehicles and public members. We understand that in public areas, the speed of the vehicles must be at a given limit, which is this. So having speed limit signs in the area prevents accidents and collisions with other vehicles. Now, number 2 is the stop signs at the junctions. These communicate to the public that drivers must come to a complete halt at designated points, such as during parking. Okay, we don't want the vehicles going beyond some areas. Okay, so we are going to have stop signs at those areas, prevent the vehicles from tipping over to the other side. And then thirdly, we have the reverse parking signs. These communicate to the public and the drivers that they should park their vehicles in reverse mode so that in case of an emergency, they can easily drive away without causing accidents due to the complexity of reversing in an emergency. We understand that in public spaces, we want to have our cars parked in the reverse format. Why? This is because in case of an emergency, we want to have the drivers quickly driving away, not not making reverse moves from the parking areas, because this can cause accidents since this is an emergency. Okay, the complexity that comes with reversing involves some risks which may cause accidents. And lastly, I've given you 3 different points which you can go ahead and beef up using some knowledge that I've given you from up here, and you will be able to get full marks for these ones here. All right, now number 2 are the warning signs. And the warning signs, These are used to alert the public about the dangers present at the west side, such as the deep skip dumpsters. In brackets, remember they are 3.5 meters deep, right? And the very first warning sign would be deep area below or open skip signs below. These warn the public about the presence of the 3.5 deep skips, hence creating awareness about fall from height risks into the skips during emptying of their waste bags stroke containers. All right, so we have an area where the skips are below, and this you would want to alert the people that there is danger. In case you fall, you may get an injury. All right, so alerting the workers and the public of the presence of a deep area below would alert them and make them aware to be very cautious when they are emptying their waste bags. Number two are the ramp signs, and these warn the public of a change in ground elevation level to a raised ground to prevent loss of vehicle control and prevent damage to the vehicles during movement. We understand that where there is an elevation in the ground level, and in case the drivers are not paying attention, this can cause a sudden change in the vehicle movement, and this would cause damage to the car in case the driver is not paying attention. And having these ramp signs ensures or creates awareness to the drivers to make them know that here there is a ground elevation change, and thus you must pay more attention. I've given you 5 points. You can go ahead and beef them up. So I've given you 3 extra points, which is the moving vehicles warning signs, pedestrians in the vehicle area signs, and reversing vehicles signs. All these are warning signs that prevent or ensure health and safety within the area. Number three is the mandatory signs, and these are used to enforce specific actions necessary to ensure health and safety compliance, and they prevent accidents and protect individuals by clearly dictating required behaviors in the publicly accessible area. And the very first mandatory sign is stop and wait for assistance before unloading. Before unloading waste signs. Now, these are very self-explanatory. These communicate to the public to ensure they only do waste disposal under strict supervision to prevent unsafe acts that can lead to injuries. Now, number two, another safety sign, we have keep within the designated vehicle unloading area signs. These signs alert the public to keep within the safe public area and prevent access to the area below the skips, as they are not safety trained to be in that area, hence preventing them from significant risk exposure. We understand that the area below has skips, and these public members are not well trained to be within that area because they do not know the risks that are associated with being in the area below. Number three is follow instructions from site staff signs. These ensure that the public complies with operational guidance from trained workers, reducing unsafe behavior during loading, during unloading and vehicle movement activities. So, we want the public members to always follow the site staff recommendations as well as instructions to prevent any accidents or collisions within that area. And fourth point is wear high visibility clothing, wear safety footwear, and keep within designated vehicle unloading areas. I've given you 3 extra points that you can go ahead and beef up using the knowledge that I've given you from these 3 points up here. Number four, we have the prohibition signs, prohibition signs, and these, of course, tell you that do not do this. Okay, these are signs that tell you not to do something. For example, no smoking signs, because you may have some flammable waste, all right, and hence you may have fire related risks in that area. So, some of the prohibition signs, we have no unauthorized access to the skip area, we have no climbing or leaning over skips, we have no entry to to restricted industrial vehicle areas, no smoking signs, no children leaving vehicles in the unloading zone signs because you can have an accident involving the children. Number five, we have informational and instructional signs. And these, of course, tell you about some of the things that are being used or how you can easily access around the waste area. And also, they also give you further information on how to safely dispose of the waste into their respective skips. For example, we have the labels identifying each skip type. We have the skips for wood, metal, garden waste, and chemical waste. And also another sign here, we have the instructions for correct waste disposal procedures signs. We also have site layout maps showing traffic flow. All these are different signages that are within the public area, within the center, that help the public to ensure that they are safe during this activity. We also have the CCTV in operation signs, and also we have instructions for reporting incidents or seeking help. Now, lastly, we have the emergency and safety facility signages or signs, and the very first one is a first aid point. These signages of emergency and safety facility signs basically are used or give you useful information in case of an emergency, such as first aid point signage. We have emergency contact numbers. We have the fire extinguisher locations to put out fire in case there is a fire. We have the emergency assembly point or the master point signs. We also have the exit route signs for evacuation or site closure in case of an emergency. I've given you six different signages. Go ahead, beef them up, and I'm very certain and very sure that you'll be able to get the 15 solid marks. Now, number five or task five talks about recycling and reuse center health and safety culture. Now, based on the scenario only, now this is the question. Based on the scenario only, what are the indicators of a positive health and safety culture at the recycling and reuse center? We very well know that there are multiple positive positive safety culture indicators, and I always recommend my students to always follow the point, scenario link, and explanation form to come up with these answers. Okay. Now, I always recommend my students to always go ahead and search if they don't understand some concepts. For example, they may have forgotten about the positive indicators of health and safety culture. But in case you forget and you go and search on Google, always remember to reference where you've gotten the information from. So, the positive indicators of health and safety culture, I can use this concept from the Green World Group India, and going here, I'll be able to see some of the signs of a successful health and safety culture, or to show a positive health and safety culture. And we can see them here. We have leadership commitment, we have employee engagement, effective communication, proactive risk management framework, reporting and learning from incidents, continuing development and training, responsibility at all levels. That includes both the management and the people below the management, or the workers or the employees. Then number eight, we have the rewards and incentives for safe behavior. We have the legal and regulatory compliance commitment, and positive feedback and employee engagement. Do not forget, if you decide to use these points for answering the question, always remember to reference where you've gotten them from, to ensure that you get the required marks and you're not penalized for cheating or copying blocks of tests that you have not referenced. All right. Going back to the task and the answer sheet, I've shown you the different positive indicators, or the indicators for a positive safety culture. And the very first one that I want to explain in the form of point, scenario link, and explanation will be the active management commitment and involvement in the health and safety of the workplace. Now, Based on the scenario, the manager is regularly seen in and around the reuse and recycling facility and also conducts unannounced workplace inspections. This is from the scenario, okay? Now, I want to explain my point. In the blue shading, this shows active involvement of the management in ensuring the health and safety of the workers at the workplace, which reinforces a safe behavior across the workforce. Now, this is self explanatory. When you have the management actively involved in the day to day HSE practices of the workplace, we ought or we will have very few accidents and incidents because the management is actively involved and is taking corrective actions to ensure that the risks are reduced to a level as low as reasonably practicable. The second point is effective communication on the health and safety performance at the workplace. Now, based on the scenario, again, the young manager gives weekly updates at the leadership meetings. He also conducts daily HSE briefings. This shows that there is effective communication between the young manager and the workers, and this creates awareness, and the workers can easily raise their concerns and track performance of the control measures. This to me clearly shows a positive safety culture. Why? Because we have a two-way active communication between the workers and the young manager, as he also updates them about the HSE performance of the workplace. Thirdly, we have the worker involvement in the risk assessments. Okay, that is the point. Now, the scenario link we have, based on the scenario, the workers are actively involved in formulating the risk assessments and also provide feedback on the work procedures. And the explanation is involving the workers in risk assessment formulation ensures that the risks being controlled are practically aligned with what is actually happening at the center or on ground, hence improving the relevance and effectiveness of the safety measures that have been put in place or that are being put in place. Now, this is also self-explanatory. When we have the workers actively involved in conducting or in formulating the risk assessments, they are the ones who actually carry out the day-to-day work at the recycling center. Thus, they have key knowledge about the risks that they face and how best they can come up with those control measures to reduce the risks to a level as low as reasonably practicable. Number four, we have the near miss and incident reporting. Now, based on the scenario, the manager immediately responds to the incident where a public member's hand was entangled in the waste bag that is at the skip. The young manager arranges a team briefing to discuss it and come up with temporary measures. This shows that incidents are discussed and used as learning opportunities to prevent them from reoccurring, hence a positive safety culture. Now, this whole point gives me a full 1 mark. Why? Because I've given the point, which is highlighted, which is bold. Okay. Secondly, I've given you the the scenario linked, the scenario link or the scenario evidence, and then thirdly, I've given you the explanation as to why I feel my point is worth 1 mark. So these three combined will give you one solid mark. Now, lastly, we have a quick action taken on safety concerns. Okay. Now, based on the scenario again, when the workers raised the concern about faded PPE signs, the young manager arranged for the contractors to come and repaint them. This demonstrates that the safety concerns at the workplace are taken seriously and the management acts upon them to reduce the risks associated with these concerns. Now, the same thing again here, I have the point which is in bold, followed by the scenario link, okay? And then lastly followed by the explanation as to why I feel this is a solid point for a positive safety culture. I've gone ahead and given you an extra 10 points. Please go ahead, beef them up, give them flesh, and give them in the form of point, scenario link, or scenario evidence, then followed by the explanation. And I'm very sure that you will be able to get the required marks, which are the 15 marks. Now, this brings me to the end of part 2, and I will be seeing you on part 3. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and share so that we can have everyone passing the NEBOSH examinations. Thank you.